The special called meeting by the City Council for Monday, July 29th, 2019. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
So moved by George Lawrence and seconded by Paul Tisdale. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. I'm going to ask the mayor for a report. Is there any departmental reports? I'll take that as a no. Council, George, update?
No report.
No report.
I have no report, Mr. Barrett.
No, sir.
We'll move into the crux of the agenda. We'll start with citizen comments. Do I have any comments to anyone out here on my left-hand side, your right-hand side of the room? Anybody with comments on the right-hand side of the room or your left-hand side of the room? There being no comments, we'll move forward with the agenda itself. And this is a workshop for the mayor and the council to discuss matters regarding the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2020. I understand, Mr. Leonard, you have an update?
Hi, this is where I get to talk.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, I wasn't paying attention. We have presented all the department budgets in the previous workshops except two. So my intent would be to start with the last two that we haven't done and then move to the non-department budget, if that would be okay.
That's fine. You want to?
I want to point out at your place is a two-page summary of the department budgets. If you were to compare that to the department budgets that the exhibit you had at the last workshop, you would see that it has changed. During the last week, we've done a major scrub of the department budgets and have moved about $1.5 million out of the budgets. It was painful. Each of the department heads are here to answer any questions you might have about the changes that we made, but essentially what we did was move a lot of cash out of capital equipment budget, out of capital equipment items, and we had some position changes. All of this was done to try and get the budget closer to being balanced. Today, those last two departments that we're going to take up would be the administrative department and the executive department. All the rest of them have been covered and are reflected in what you have up there. So let me start with the administrative department. Not a lot to say. It changes, and we propose changes from $3.4 million to $3.5 million in the administrative department. Now, that sounds like a lot of money for an administrative department, but remember, the IT section is in the administrative departments, and there's almost $1 million in IT costs that have been collected from all the departments in the last year and moved into the administrative department, which means that if somebody has a software requirement, and Lord knows you've seen a lot of budget amendments this last year about software, that we keep finding software requirements that have been squirreled away in the department budgets over the years for various reasons. We've got that, we think, all pulled together in one place now. And so we know that the full cost of IT, and it's almost $1 million of our $60 million budget is spent on IT.
So we've counted for the reductions in the respective.
So what you see in the change is the change that you see in the budget is the difference between last year and this year is finding more IT that was in the departments and moving it into the administrative budget. The other things that changed in the administrative department is that we've increased the other professional services. That's the account which we use to pay the lobbyist. It's the account we use to pay the people that do our grant writing. It's the account we use to pay for architectural services. So we've increased that to closer to what we're paying, where we ended this year. It seemed like we had to come back to you about 3 times in the last year for more money for other professional services. So we've increased that to what we think is the right number. And the other major increase in the administrative budget is the rent cost for the post office. As you know, we have both the second and the third floor of the post office. The third floor is occupied by the accounting department and also by human resources. The second floor is still vacant, and as part of our original lease, that came to us as an option, which is, it's ours, and it's ours to pay for now starting this year. Not something we can wiggle out of. and we will aggressively try and find a tenant to move into that second floor. Originally, it was intended to move the courts there, but that's the deemed, and that deemed to be a little too expensive right now. So we're thinking we might be able to find a tenant to move in there. But that increased rental cost is in this year's budget. Remember also that when we moved into the post office, we did so out of the old library. So the offset so far in this last current budget year, the rent payment for the old library exceeds the amount of rent that we're paying at the post office. That'll flip this year, and actually we'll be paying a little more for the post office than we are being paid for rent out of the library.
Was at the post office for $7,000 a month?
This is with 7,000. We're receiving 7,000 for a while.
Say what? What'd you say?
He said it's 70. If you want to pull that mic closer.
Yeah, I don't. It's 7,000, but I don't have the number in front of me about what the new rent is for the library.
It's less than that.
For the post office. I know it was a very generous situation with regards to the number of dollars per square foot we're paying over there. It's like $7 a square foot.
Over here.
So for the second and third floor, we're paying $7,000 a month to the post office for both of those floors.
Yeah. It's going to 15,000. 1,500, excuse me.
It's going to $1,500 a
1,000
month.
a year. Yeah. Oh, no,
Right?
1,500.
I don't have that number.
Okay.
Jody,
It's $7,500 a month right now. In November, it goes to $15,000 a month. We're receiving $7,500 a month from the library, which has been offsetting what we've been paying for the last year, 2 years.
So the cost is $180,000 a year next year. $15,000 a month. And where we offsetting that from?
From the rent over there, you guys, the first 2 years, and there's some other places as far as bringing, I think we're getting rid of the 2,400 that we were using for the rectory.
we're
Nativity.
dropping the
Dropping
rent
that
on
rent.
the Nativity Rectory that is used by the fire department and up until the end of this year. We're also clearing about $3,000 a month on the Magnolia Hotel over what we're paying for the new Mardi Gras Museum. So some of the other properties that have made moves on are actually making that up.
I
So we're
mean, it
making
costs you
money on Magnolia
$200,000 to be
Hotel.
doing another thing downtown too. You put $158,000 up and $48,000 a year in rent. So you're gonna put $200,000 in somebody else's building, so you're not clearing $3,000 from the Magnolia Hotel.
Well, there's no utilities, there's a lot of other things that are wrapped up in the decision to go and get that other half of the other, was it $3 a square foot?
Well, the Magnolia Hotel, in addition to the fact that the rent is $3,000 more than we're paying for the Mardi Gras Museum now for their management agreement, we're also, we don't have any utility costs, no elevator costs, no maintenance costs for the building. All of that went away. So you know, it was.
As Mike was saying, there's an opportunity. We had originally talked about the need to maybe put the courts there. You know, with that, parking is a big issue where we are right now, and some other storage and possibly IT on that floor, or even on the third floor. So we're researching what we could probably rent that square feet if somebody wants like a new company come into town. We're paying $7 a square foot for it, and that's a pretty good price. So we could charge them $12 a square foot. We're in the middle for that part that they would build out, and because it is it's open to do with many things.
Well, have y'all put out any feelers for that, for anybody coming back and renting
We've been
anything?
talking. Nobody's come up with a proposal at this point.
But I mean, our rent is definitely good at $15,000.
Yes.
Yeah.
And is that October, the first of the year?
November.
November? That's when it kicks in to 15,000. So I hope you have somebody by then. That's another $180,000, you know? a year.
Yes.
Anyway, that's pretty much the difference in the admin budget this year over last. The big hitter is IT. That was the biggest reason for the change, the IT.
That was washed out through other departments. What was being spread in IT and software support and hardware and everything else is now consolidated in one place.
And other professional services. I budgeted 6 months of the lobbyist. We've used him 9 months, 10 months this year, so that's one of the things we'll have to deal with.
Well, and also, and we're in the middle of some things with that kind of service, whether it's this particular firm or whether it's any other firm. We're going to be in need of some support in Jackson doing so we're budgeting what we think, again, not a commitment, just got a plan on how we do it. We're not hung up on that price that we've engaged, those services right now, so we're just budgeting that amount for representation. We've got some FEMA issues going on, as well as the next year's legislative session.
Mr. Barrett, do you have any questions regarding the administration budget? No. Mr. Tisdale? Mr. Lawrence?
Yeah, I was just looking at the new sheet you give us. Most of this is salaries or is positions we're not filling, you're just subtracting that from this, but the original, like, the fire department is $500,000. That's just jobs you're not filling? That's different from it was last time. With 976, you got 501.
One of the things we talked about last workshop was the fact that all of our departments run with vacancies during the year. It's just the nature of the business. And that's especially true of the fire department and police. Both of those departments, there's a long lead time to fill positions. So, we go through the year with vacancies. And one of the places where we drive down expenses during the year is not filling those vacancies immediately. So if you're asking what were the changes in the budget between this today and the last time you saw it, the major changes were a decrease in capital equipment. The Public Works Department gave up several $100,000 in capital equipment, for example. So, so a combination of vacancies not filled and capital items. That's mostly how we drove the budget down. It's not. It wasn't very comfortable for the departments. They're not happy. I'm sure. But they tell me they can live with the new number. So the fire department still has their 2 fire trucks. The fire department still has its 2 new fire stations. The police department still getting their 16 vehicles. The police department still getting their $600,000 worth of body cameras. So, and the fire department's still getting their bunker gear. So for the most part, they're getting the big items that they were looking for. They had to do some trade-offs to hang on to those things, but the real big ticket
I was
items are
just
still in
going
there.
through the first ones at the beginning. That's why I noticed those difference. The big difference at the beginning. So I was just trying to figure out, I hadn't seen them all. How much difference have you have totally from what we had from this sheet here to this sheet? What's the total difference of savings or less amount?
About $1 million, George. About $1 million.
Say again, what is it?
This
I
would
need
be
to see
an
your sheet.
opportunity for me to explain something is late breaking, if you will. In discussions with our auditors, they have recommended to us that we adjust the way we account for capital items that we lease purchase. And they have told us that appropriately we should put all those costs in the first year. Now, of course, that drives up the expenses in the first year, but you're able to then take a revenue amount in the other years, whether it be 15 years for the fire station or 7 years for the 2 fire trucks and so forth. So it's just an accounting, different accounting methodology, but it's more accurate compared to what the auditors tell us we should do. So the next time you see these numbers, they will look a little different, but the bottom line is going to be the same. The bottom line in terms of ending cash balance will be the same. It's just that you're going to see more expense and more revenue And it's just an accounting sleight of hand.
No, it's not slight, man, it's Gatsby 30.
It's like buying a used car, huh?
Slight about it. I mean, if you had audited,
It's
you
just-
could explain it, you know, Ken and I, we're trying to, it's not a sleight of hand. It's when you buy something, you capitalize it, and you have no money into it, it's gonna recognize it as revenue. And you have all the expense at one time. I mean, that's Gatsby 86, I think.
Yeah. But what's unusual about these are things that we are not going to own. We're going to capitalize them, but we don't own them. We don't own the fire station for 15 years. We don't own the fire trucks until they're paid for.
And there's on the bridge, we own a lot of things, those kinds of things. The whole idea was to make it look and describe in dollar terms, all these things that we do own, a road, a bridge, those kinds of things. And that was a whole, that started in probably 2000 with Gatsby 34.
Well, the fire station, one of them you did with SMPDs. So we don't own either one of them, or we own one of them?
Like a car, if you capitalize, if you actually lease a car, it's the same kind of thing.
A capital lease. A capital lease where you're leasing with the intent to own it. Then you really need to, as it's been explained to us, you need to account for the capital cost, you need to capitalize the item at the time the agreement is executed. So, I mean, we'll move into that fire station in November, but we won't actually own it for 15 years. We'll take delivery of those fire trucks in about a year, but we won't own them for another 7 years. But we'll capitalize them in the budget year that we acquired them. And that's just a little change to how it's going to reflect in our budget.
But you're responsible for them. The fire station and the fire trucks.
But the way it's done, the bottom line, that is the ending balance it stays the same. Because we can shove in revenue in the following years. So it all works out in the wash, shall we say.
The fund balance is the same, not the cash balance. Two different animals.
Well, you need a big box of tires for that wash.
I'd let Ken explain it to you, but we would like to get done before 5 o'clock.
Well, the difference is in business. If you go buy a piece of equipment, you can put it on the books. It has some value, okay? And that's the whole general. You're not going to, even though you pay for it all in 1 year, you haven't paid for it. You've converted it to an asset, right? And that's the answer to a similar thing. But we can't. It's not an accrual kind of method, so. And convert it to cash, an asset.
Are there any follow-up questions on the administration budget?
The other budget item would be the executive branch.
Hold on,
Let me
we
go
got some follow-up on it.
Let me go back to the administration just for the moment and make an observation. And that is, for the reasons you mentioned, Mr. Leonard, I'm glad you broke out what the costs were for services and contractual services. That answered one of the questions I have. I'm wondering, in any given month or a typical month, or day for that matter, we have about 615 employees. We always have positions empty. Roughly how many positions at any given time on average are empty? And it's a rhetorical question simply because it means you don't have 100% of your manpower employed. And then you have folks who are ill, and then you have folks who are on leave or on vacation or whatever. So even though you budget for whatever that 100% is on any given day, you might be looking, I'm guessing, at 95, 92% of the folks. I'm just pulling that out of thin air. I don't know if anybody does that kind of.
Chief, how many police vacancies today?
Right.
Fire
And-
department? 7?
Right, and those
So
are,
it sounds to me like 20 to 25 vacancies on average at any one time.
right, so multiply that times an average salary, and that varies, so we're not paying that money out. That helps us a little bit to conserve some of our funds, but what it also means is if you're short firefighters or you're short officers on the beat, that means additional overtime, which is always more costly than just hiring an additional person or two. but.
Well, no, I'm not sure I agree with you, sir, because when you paying somebody overtime, you're not paying the additional cost of their medical insurance, for example, their FICA and SUI, FUDI, and all the other benefit costs, because he's just drawing some extra salary, but we're not paying for his additional medical.
Right, and there's wear and tear on the vehicle
Mhm.
and wear and tear on the individual. But I guess my point is, in looking at the percentage of our budget that's spent on personnel costs in 2013, it was 68%, and now we're up to 73%. And what that tells me is, and our revenue's been pretty much level, but what that tells me is we're trimming things other than our personnel. That's why your personnel consumes a greater percentage of the budget, yet we still run vacancies. And with those personnel costs, when you add positions, now you've got additional contributions to PERS, additional insurance, so that's all. I just wanted to make that observation for what it's worth. Thank you.
A question back on the employees. According to the audit book, 2018, we had 609 employees. I don't count everybody, 609. You know, the last few years have been 609, 606, 611. Before that was in the 500s, 590s and that. So how many more people have to add to the 609? I don't know if that counts elected officials, anybody else. The 609 should be the people that are actually working for the city of Biloxi all the time.
And it may also be the full-time cost.
This is that page 111 in the audit book.
18 elected officials, don't you, 17, 18 appointed or elected? Yeah, 17 of the 600 and something, too.
You have, just full here.
The other thing is,
609 full-time positions. 745 budgeted positions. Is that 45 or 65? 65. And that's how many, it's seasonal and part-time and elected or appointed.
so
These
when you
boards
think
that
about the
get
Parks
paid-
and Recs Department, there's a huge surge of people in the summertime in Parks and Recs. And there are a lot of part-time lifeguards, part-time weed whackers and so forth, part-time harbor masters. Those are all part-time positions, not counted in that 609 that you're quoting.
That's what I was trying to find out, because tomorrow we get ready to have the insurance meeting. I need to find out how many people we actually have on the insurance, full-time people that we on our insurance program. But those are things we got to look at tomorrow. That's why I was just seeing this was 609, so I know it's more people than that. I don't think there's any elected officials, eight elected officials. So I don't know who else is not in there.
Yep. Well, since you brought up medical, let me just dive in there just for a second. You will have all gotten the little diagram that I do quarterly that shows where we are in the year. Right now, the one that I handed out for the end of June showed that we were running 300,000 claims running above contributions. That has grown to 350,000 now by the end of July. We're estimating right now, best estimate we've got is that we're going to probably overrun our budget by somewhere in the neighborhood of 350 to 400,000. That's going to come out of the general fund at the end of the year. This is one of the things that you'll struggle with, I'm sure, at the insurance meeting tomorrow. This is the first year since I've been here that we actually went over the budget. We've come very close. You remember in the last year we ended the year with 240,000 to the good. The year before that, 46,000 to the good, then 41,000 to the good, 420,000 to the good. This year we're going to end up 350 to the bad. And actual costs, 350,000, and that's why. That's because we've had a lot of very big claims this year, and our costs are up.
Is that, you include the override money that you get back in that number?
Does it
In
include?
those big claims, you have that 125,
It
the
inc-
override
yeah,
money. You
It
get it back.
includes the payback for the reinsurance is the term.
Yeah.
It includes reinsurance paybacks and anticipated reinsurance paybacks, and it also includes the rebate, the pharmacy rebate, and the assumed pharmacy rebate for the rest of the year. So that's our best guess now, based on our run rate through 10 months of the year, that we're going to be in the hole at the end of the year.
So the question is too, in my mind, then what are we gonna do for 2021, right? Or 1920?
Well, that's why I was trying to get a handle on exactly how many employees we have on the insurance program. You know, we need to know that particular number. If it's 620, 619, 631, we just need to know that. Whatever it is, that's on our program.
Mike,
All right.
what is the root of that, that number, that 340,000 to 350,000 over what our expected claims were? Is it the amount of claims or the cost per claim?
It's both, and on the cost per claims, some of the claims that are, like 250, 300, 400,000, we've had some that are that much. In those cases, those individual cases, reinsurance kicks in at a certain level, and we get some money back. Well, reinsurance also kicks in when we go over 120% of our budget, which I don't think we'll get there, but. Yeah, I mean, and our fixed costs have gone, the actual cost of the insurance processing, everything else is going up. So costs are up, claims are up, and it's,
All right, well, I don't wanna-
not a good story.
Right, we'll be working on insurance at another time. Do we have any other questions about the administration budget before we move on to the executive budget?
I just, looking at it, that's good. Just move on.
Yeah, we're gonna move on to the
We'll
insurance.
ask these questions later. We had enough time to look at all of them, Judge, so.
The executive budget is the last budget of the department budgets that we haven't spoken about yet. It's a pretty simple storyline. The previous year was 920,000. We reduced that to 900,000 even. And then the executive, we got enough money for the mayor to go to DC a couple times this year. Not going to Hawaii next year. Yeah, so it's a reduction in the budget. Again, the big numbers in that budget, printing and binding, printing and binding is the B News and all the other publications that go out. And I don't have anything else on that budget.
Mr. Barrett, do you have any questions regarding the executive budget?
Would,
Mr. Tisdale?
Yeah, on the B News, my understanding is, I know we passed a resolution in January, and we had talked about this a little earlier, but I'm still trying to get it right in my mind. Because I'm not a CPA like Mr. McCune, and I've talked with him and understand that things have to be done a certain way, accounting-wise. So you've got expenses and revenue, but there's no single account for B News. In other words, if it was me at home, I'd list a column of what revenue I'm bringing in for B News, what sales I'm making, and how that money's being spent. But as we talked about last time, it appears in revenue generated from sales, but doesn't include the money in other budgets that were used to pay for some of those publications, like the storm.
storm mail out, the water department
Exactly.
quality mail out and so forth.
CDBG
Each one of those amounts were taken out of the department budgets, out of community development, out of public works, is where the two major items were.
Right here.
And the executive budget, they came out of downtown, the downtown office, Main Street office.
Right.
You got a project.
So those were all
6430 is the object code that can be tracked, and there's a project number which identifies it. You may have a couple of 6430s with that what is it? ND 500s is the project, which would be B News in this.
So what happens at the end of this fiscal year if they sell sell 3 ads, year's worth of ads at whatever, and they generate $30,000, and here we are in August, and they're going to run ads for the mayor's business. So you purchase advertising for a year, and you pay them $10,000, and that goes into the revenue at this point, and then at the end of the fiscal year, 2 months from now, at the end of September, What happens to that money that's in their
Well,
revenue account? Does that go to the general fund? What
Well,
happens?
it is
to
going to
that
the
money?
general fund, that's booked to the general fund. So, I mean, if you look at it as a project, which I think this system, the intent was, if you use that ND, 540? You can look at everything that hit ND 540, object code Y6, whatever that number is, and you can see that the cost of that operation cost us some money, but it was also offset by the things that other departments do not need to advertise and send out. So I don't expect it to make money, but it's to offset other things that we're using that publication to do, water quality.
Well, the idea was, when it was pitched to the council, that, hey, it's going to run you at $180,000 roughly, $15,000 a month.
To do it.
And if there's revenue if the revenue is all generated in October at the beginning of the fiscal year and you have $180,000, good, that you're set for the rest of the fiscal year and it works out nicely. But if you get $50,000 this month for advertising, most of which occurs next year, but at the end of this fiscal year, whatever the balance is in that revenue account, that just goes right into the general fund.
Right, and what we could do for you, Councilman, is we could give you, when the year's over, we can give you a report that says we spent $178,000 to do the B News, and we collected $78,000 in money that went into recoveries and into the general fund. But you know, one's revenue and the other's expense.
Right, and I'm not an accountant, but
I think that would
I
be
sort of
useful.
understand. Michelle, if you would, just make a note of that. I'd like that report at the end of the fiscal year, just to see what came in the previous fiscal year and what went out.
When I
for-
last
for B News.
saw it, we were running like 125 for printing, and we'd collected 70 some odd.
Right, but that's only part of the picture, as I understand it. But we'll have that discussion at another time. I'm just
At the end of the
trying to follow up on that and also understand exactly what's occurring. If it's not designed to make money, but if we're not covering the cost after a period of a year or 18 months or 2 years, then good. If we're not close to covering costs, shut it down. But if they're out there generating revenue, I would think whenever the fiscal year ends, that revenue would carry over since they earned it.
If in the case that you're going to shut this thing down, then you have to put some more budget for the things that you have to do, notifications that you have to do.
Right, you still have those notifications no matter where it appears, whether it's done departments by that department or in B News or what, we still have to do that. Okay, thank you.
But y'all explained to us last week, it was 77,000 you collected for advertisement, 53,000 come out of everybody's budget, was 130,000. But then you said they had that 0.5% fee that we're putting back into that account from the B News, from the TV or something?
The franchise
Oh.
agreement.
Yeah, money, so it would be like a 0.5%.
That's the franchise fee.
Did that cover the 50,000?
That's to be used for video for BTV.
And those cameras.
It's required that we spend it on television media.
Right, and that was done, I think, $20,000 to buy a one-time cost for that equipment which was purchased, but every year that rolls along, that percentage of the franchise fee, if I understood correctly in the resolution, is designated to the B News account.
To the BTV account, to the video rollout that you've been seeing the last month or so,
Right, but not to B News?
not to B News.
Okay.
So the 50,000 you don't have enough comes from where? Did you take it out of general fund? If you're 50,000 short, according to the numbers y'all give it ended up to 130, but you said it cost 180, so it's negative 50,000 in the B News thing. Just the
The
B News
difference
part.
between the 180 and however much we collect is basically what it cost us to run B News.
That's what I'm saying, so it was 50,000 difference. So you show that anywhere in here?
We can't do it till the end of the year.
Say
I can
again?
tell you what it's running right now today, but I can't tell you what it's going to run to the end of the year. I don't know how much ads we're going to sell at the end of the year. I think I said a few minutes ago, when I last looked at it, it was 130,000 in cost and about $75,000 in collections. When I last saw it, Cecilia might know that number better than I do, but it's not too far off.
Anybody ask you anything? You want to ask him something?
Yeah.
Ask him.
Will the chair recognizes Vincent Creel?
What we came to you and said is that we want to put out a monthly newsletter. The way we wanted to put out the monthly newsletter was we wanted to take money from the Community Development Department that we must spend on a newsletter. We want to take money from the Public Works Department for the Water Quality Report. And we wanted to take money from Main Street that does a monthly calendar that went to about 1,000 people. So when you add all up that money, it comes out to be about $50,000 or $60,000. She knows it to the exact penny. The other thing that we said is that if we get that money, we will go out and sell advertising, and we might sell like maybe, we would hope like $120,000 worth of advertising. Because the question we got is, what is this thing going to cost? We thought it would cost about $15,000 a month. What happens is, some months it costs more than that. It might cost $18,000. The reason it costs $18,000 is because postage is $4,000 alone. Design is about $2,500, and then the printing after that. So what we did was, we would go out and sell advertising, and some advertising that we sell requires us to have more space in the newsletter. So we're stuck at a $180,000 budget whenever our expenses are going to be higher because we have to get more advertising in. Now, the figure that came up 2 weeks ago when I wasn't here, I was out of town, y'all said that we're looking at expenses of $180,000 and we've only taken in $70,000. We took in $70,000 as of then. Today, where are we? We're at 83 right now. We're waiting on $10,000 from Biloxi Public Schools. The invoice is going out today. We're waiting on $10,000 from who else? People's Bancos is $10,000. They paid $8 last year. They're paying $10 this year. We're waiting on the Blake is going to send us $5,000, and there's one more, Sparklight, which is Cable One over there. That's another $10,000. So what I just told you was about $45,000 that we're going to be taking in by the end of this year, and we're confident we're going to take it this fiscal year, and we're confident we're going to take it in because they've paid us before. So the bottom line is this: the agenda item that y'all passed in January said that all of the money that we take in from revenue on advertising, the money that we take in from Public Works and Jerry Creel's department and from Kay Miller, and the cable franchise money, which comes out to be about $40,000 a year. If you put all that money in one place, then you know what we're doing. You will know right away if we got a problem and we're not managing our money. Right now, it's hard to say with any kind of accountability. Now, the beauty of this thing is no other city around us does this. No other city has the TV stuff that we have on. Now, if y'all don't want to do that, then yeah, we can get out of it. But I think we're performing a great service here right now, and somebody much smarter than me said that there's value to what we're doing. And that's all I can say is, it's driving Cecilia crazy having to try to figure this out. We're trying to go by this resolution that y'all passed unanimously that said where that money goes and where it comes from. And it tells you right away, here's what they're doing, and here's what they're spending, and we got a problem. But we don't have a problem. We think we're right on track, but we need some fluidness in this budget. We don't need to be going around trying to find money every time. And the beauty of it is, the way you can tell your constituents, one of the council members asked me, who's been asking a lot about this, what if my constituents' road's not being paved? We got a newsletter and we got a TV station, but my road's not being paved. The beauty of what we're doing is, it's telling people why their road's not being paved. Or if it is going to be paved, it tells them when. It tells them what y'all are doing as city leaders, and we're doing it in a very cost-effective manner. So what I would ask that we do is we go by the resolution that y'all passed. We're not asking for any new money. We're asking for that money to be in one pot. We spend it from there, and we take it in from there. And it's pretty clear, you know, I mean, that makes it simple for her, it makes it simple for me, to where we can spend time on writing stories and taking pictures and not going around looking for money. Because that $40,000 I told you about we got coming in, we're going to lose that. We lost $20,000 the first year when we got caught up in the end of the budget year. That's all I'm saying, you know, is we want to do something that's accountable. We want to do something that's relevant, and we want to do it without coming to get budget amendments all the time. So that's all I wanted to say, since y'all had so much to say about this thing.
Well, all we,
Any questions?
yeah, I got a question.
Go ahead.
We said 180,000. You said you're gonna pay for it. That's all we have extra, is pay for it. Now, what you just named was 130 and 170, 45, 175,000. Okay, fine. That money should go to the B News.
Right.
The thing with the B News, and you said it
Yeah,
from the
right.
beginning, it will not cost anybody a penny.
No, it's
All right,
not.
so
It's not.
All we saying is you got 180,000, you got 180,000 come in, you pay for your note, then that's not a problem.
But we're
That's
not
all the
getting all
questions we
that,
asked.
we're not getting all that money. And that money statutorily, franchise agreement says it goes into BTV, and it also says what y'all passed is that money goes into that one account. We want to make sure that we're not spending all of our time tracking down money. Now, I'm not an accountant. I don't, and I'm probably going to be counseled about this after this meeting, but this is something we're very proud of. We think it's very effective, and we don't want to see it be killed by a bookkeeping nightmare. Okay?
You said it's 40,000 coming in, when do you get that money then?
Excuse me?
For 40,000, you said you're collecting 40,000.
Yeah,
Over to you,
it's coming in.
10,000. All right, so,
What happens with that 40,000 is they're gonna send a $10,000 check from the cable company, they're gonna send a $10,000 check from Biloxi Public Schools, they're gonna send a $10,000 check from where else? Sparklight, and then we got 5,000 coming in from the Blake. When you add up what we got coming in, the new money, it's gonna be $40,000. That money's gonna go over to finance. It says City of Biloxi, period. And that's it. We don't know any more about it.
so all we gotta do is balance it. That's the name of the game.
The bottom line is, whenever George Lawrence at People's Bank buys an ad, and that ad is bought today for a year, that money should stick with that newsletter, not go in a deep hole. That's
Now, you're supposed to get 180, you're supposed to create 180, spend 180.
Right.
That's Vincent Creel. And nothing to do with George Lawrence. That's Vincent Creel. That was your story. Nobody had
That
a
is
problem
my
with it.
story.
Nobody had a problem with it.
We did it
All
the
you gotta do
first
is
year.
match the money up, that's it.
I'll tell you what, this thing's very accountable, and we want to show you that.
That's not a problem, that's just it. That's all we're looking for. Balanced out is balanced out.
You okay with this
It's supposed to be
newsletter?
zero to account, right?
You okay with it?
Oh, yeah. Just bring in the money.
Y'all all okay? Y'all got any questions? Thank
The only
y'all.
question I have is, who is this person that's smarter than you?
He told me at the beginning, if it was stupid, we're not going to do it. And I thought that was great advice.
Well, you know,
It's
you know
great.
the old saying about stupid, you can't fix stupid.
Thanks, Vincent. Mr. Tisdale, do you have any follow-ups?
I'm done picking that scab.
Mr. Barrett? Mr. Lawrence?
Where we at? Where we going?
Just seeing if you had any follow-ups from what we just discussed.
I don't know, in the B News, no.
You said no.
What else you got?
That's the last of the department reports, but I want to call out a number that's in front of you.
Did we cover ports and harbors?
We hadn't
We
did
didn't,
port
other
yet.
than the fact that what I pointed out the other day was that both the port and the harbor are showing as positive numbers. I'm not sure what there would be more to tell you, other than that we're
No, well,
showing,
that's good. Good question. Do
showing
they- do-
revenues exceeding expenses in both cases.
Right. We've got two commercial harbors, and we have two, right, the one behind Hard Rock and the one on Back Bay. And then we've got the marina, and then we've got the small craft harbor.
Technically, four harbors, because we've got the commercial harbor,
Okay.
the harbor in the back bay. We've got Point Cadet, the small craft harbor, and we got Point Cadet, so there's technically four harbors.
Do they all have, are they all under cameras for security, or can we look at that? I mean, if they have the money to do that, could we look at doing that? If they have money in their budget, is it possible to do that? Is security an issue? I know it is from time to time, and I'm just thinking if these facilities were under camera, it may help with some of that stuff. If they have the money in their budget to do something like that, is
They
that
do.
possible?
It is. And remember that we've got the additional county millage that's coming in.
Right.
That's being segmented into projects for the harbor.
Okay.
So if we had an upgrade project to do cameras, we could do that as a project using the additional county millage
Okay.
and so forth.
Thank you.
There's
I need
one
to ask
number-
y'all a question. I asked Larry a question, one of y'all. At Forest Avenue Pier, they got guys renting jet skis. Are they paying the city? Right there, Dave's out this whole weekend.
Forest
Renting
Avenue?
jet skis.
The Forest
And that's-
Avenue,
They shouldn't be doing that.
what's the question about the Forest Avenue Pier?
They guys using Forest Avenue Pier and he's renting jet skis. But the county had nothing to do back there.
No, for,
Yeah.
Mr. George, my guys are back there 3-4 times a week. Nothing's ever come back to us that they were doing anything like that at Forest Avenue. The only thing that goes on at Forest Avenue Pier is vandalism.
You know, and he was out there this whole weekend. Yeah, they stole all the solar lights, so we're gonna put them back on the Forest
I'm
Avenue.
working
Pier.
on putting some electrical back.
Well, something, you gotta light the piers up. Those are big safety.
Sure we
The
are.
thing with the guy with the jet ski bothered me. I mean, you know, they're using, I can
assure you-
thing down there.
I can assure you that doesn't go on with us knowing about it, Mr. George. You act like that's something we allow to go on. That's
I'm just
nothing
not-
we allow to go on.
I was just wondering who did that and how was they able to do it,
Well, I guess they just set up and did it.
you know? And I really don't know if the county can give them permission to do that back there. That was my thing. I mean, I was thinking about the county because of the beach, but I'm just saying, that is not the purpose of that pier and that ramp.
No,
For
sir,
somebody
it's
to
not.
utilize it like that.
That's the
I
first
mean, it was this
that's
weekend.
the
that's
first
why
I've heard of it.
I knew he was having this meeting today, so I was gonna ask you today.
First I've heard of it. But I will say this about Forest Avenue Pier. We try to keep up with that pier. Other than Lighthouse Pier on Front Beach, in fact, I think Forest Avenue is vandalized more than the Lighthouse Pier on the Front Beach. That one is nonstop. Whatever you try to do back there for people, it's torn up within a couple of days. We can't catch them, but every time we do something, solar lighting, fish cleaning tables, anything we try to do back there to make it better for that facility is destructed within a week. You just cannot keep anything back there.
Is
on
there any
that
way
pier.
we could put like a security camera?
Well, I don't have any way
somebody's
to,
office?
I don't have any way to hook up anything like that. You gotta have Wi-Fi, internet, something back there, and we
I
just
mean,
don't have
we
that
can't keep
available.
fixing it and it keeps tearing it up. Gotta catch somebody.
The solar thing really caught us off guard. I thought that was a good, second choice as far as the electrical, because it keeps getting tore up by storms. It doesn't take much, but that didn't last a month. They stole poles, lighting, everything that we
That's
put
why
up.
I called in, I said, there's 6 or 7 lights gone. He said, they'll go on, they stole them. I said,
They did, and
that's what
actually this
We need to
one-
light something up though. It's still a
Actually,
safety issue.
I'm working on it. I've got quotes coming to me right now. I mean, I have no control over people giving me the quotes, but as soon as I get quotes, we're gonna repair all that. Garbage cans overturned. We keep 3 or 4 garbage cans on the pier. Every bit of trash was thrown all over the pier this morning. Garbage cans in the water. It just happens all the time. And I can just about promise you, it's some local people that are down there all the time. Same ones vandalizing the garbage or the ones stealing the lights.
That's kind of the nature of the beach, you know, I mean, it's one of the things that you gotta put up
It's
with.
tough to catch, especially
I don't
back
care what you
there on-
do, you can, the trash can, you bolt them down, they cut them off, I mean, you know.
And we do it for the betterment of the people using that facility
That's
down
what you're supposed to
there.
do, yeah.
And it's
I was just
an
noticing,
endless battle.
another thing with actually, you had more employees, you always run around 20, 22 employees. Did you have more part-time people working now?
We picked up part-time. I've got 5 part-times now instead of 4.
That's why you was up to 27.
Yes, sir. Well, and I'm actually asking for some more maintenance people in this budget. My maintenance guys are just, you know, it's trash and grass, and if I have any other issues, my maintenance department just can't deal with it. They're so busy with the garbage, and if it's not garbage picking up, it's grass cutting at all these facilities, and I've got, 3 guys, 3 and a half. I got, the working supervisor, but I mean, he's kept busy ordering and, trying to keep up with everything. So I've got 3 working guys on the maintenance department. I'm hoping to pick up a little bit more on that.
I know we
My
got
harbor
hurt,
masters are working out better now.
I know we got hurt with the billfish tournament because of the bad weather.
Yes, sir.
That probably collection's probably halfway what
About
it was
half.
before, so
About
that,
half, yes, sir.
yeah, that hurt pretty bad. I mean,
Yeah.
can't do anything about the weather though. That's not
started
your
off-
fault, my fault, anybody else's.
It started off looking like we were going to beat last year.
Yeah, they were
And
packing them in there.
That
was
one
really,
day when that news came out, in fact, I think it was
that Thursday when they're supposed to be leaving.
Well,
That was
it was Tuesday night, because we were expecting a lot of more boats Wednesday for the captain's meeting. I think Tuesday night they had the crawfish boil, and a lot of people were talking about it Tuesday night, and then Wednesday's when they started canceling, and, there's nothing you can do about that, though. I mean,
No,
we still
no.
did okay, but not what we were
We
expecting.
even made the crawfish ball because Bill Raymond was talking so long at one of our meetings, we couldn't leave.
We like to see the finished product, because I don't know if y'all realize how much work my staff puts into this billfish tournament. But we like to see the finished product just to see if what we're doing is working. And, the last couple of years it has. So we were disappointed this year because we didn't get to see the finished product. We were really looking, you don't just back in 120 boats in that harbor. There's a whole lot of things you got to consider when you're placing boats in there and what you're doing for this tournament. And it's a challenge. It really is for us. And we spend 3 or 4 months probably organizing this billfish tournament. So it was very disappointing not to be able to see what we had thought was going to really be a good plan this year. Just fell out from underneath us at the last minute. But we'll do it again next year. And
That's why we keep going after the money to upgrade the harbor, because the boats, are getting bigger and bigger.
they
And they just don't fit
twice-
in our harbor anymore.
The 40-foot, when I first started as a harbor master down there, the 40-foot boat was the massive boats in that tournament. And now you got a half a dozen of them close to 100 feet. So it's a huge shame. 40-footers are the small boats now. And, that harbor was designed in the 80s. So there's a lot of difference in the boats that are actually looking for placement now than there was when all of our harbors were built. But we enjoy doing the billfish tournament. Like I said, it's very challenging, and it's a lot of work on us. And so we like to see the satisfaction when we get done, and we just wasn't able to see that this year. The last couple of years was really a lot bigger too down there the last few years. So we were really looking forward to it this year, and it just fell out from underneath us.
What is the depth of the harbor supposed to be down with the
George,
bigger
George.
boats?
George, can we save this conversation for another time? We've got a lot of budget stuff to talk about. Well, that's not about the budget. We appreciate what you do, Mr. Savage, and the Billfish tournament.
I just wanted to let you know about the Forest Avenue Pier, because that's been talked about here a lot in the last couple of weeks, and we do our best with it. It's just vandalized a lot.
Did
And
they pull a
electrical
permit
is
for that?
coming. Sorry?
Bad joke. I said, did they pull a permit for that for the
Yes,
vandalizing?
they did. Then I'd know who to go back after.
Thank you. Mr.
I have
Leonard?
I have one final number that I want to call out in front of you. If you look on the second page of the summary of department expenditure budgets, in the, about halfway down, you see total all general fund expenditures, $63,987,180. Do you see that number? I just want to call that number out and remind you that at our first budget workshop, we settled on a general fund revenue of $59,500,000. So we've got $59,500,000 worth of revenue, and in the department budgets, you've got $63,987,000 worth of expenses. Just to call out where we are.
Well,
At this point.
we were actually greater than that, so we've whittled it down some. And
Correct.
with all due respect, I know you guys will continue to whittle away at it.
Mhm.
Of that 63,987 change, how much of that is one-time expense that won't reoccur next year?
Anything that the capital items were all one-time expenses.
So we have no idea what that, can we get that number somehow, just so we can see? I mean, because, we all know that we can't sustain that
Well-
for any long period of time, but, how much of that is a one-time deal, as far as the fire engines, things like
Well,
that?
yeah, first, the fire, the police cars, for example, we should be replacing 20% of our police cars every year. So while there's 16 cars in there, and that's a one-time expense, there'll be 16 cars next year too.
Okay.
So the fire engines are a unique one-time, not that there won't be a requirement in some future years for some more, but that's a unique one-time thing.
What do those cost? Those
That's
are a couple.
Well, it's in the budget at $1 million in expense, but that's countered, going back to our discussion on accounting, that's countered by
Right, that's
by
that front loader
a
capitalizing in the
substantial,
first year.
So it's
Right.
basically hitting the budget really collectively at about $160,000 for the 2 fire trucks. But it's not, you're not seeing 160, you're seeing $1 million, and then you're seeing some revenue balancing that. But the impact at the bottom line is about 160,000. Same with the firehouse. Again, it's not a one-time thing, it's a 15 years.
Now,
But
one-
that's
One of the
fire station number.
firehouses.
One of the stations is a bond.
Yeah, one's the
One-
bond. Okay, that's what it was.
The other, fire station number 7, is a 15-year lease purchase. So while the entire amount is going to be shown in the expense, there's revenue to balance that. So the real impact on the bottom line is about $350,000
Okay.
for each of those years.
And
But-
unfortunately, I wasn't here last week. What about our bond payments? Did we go over that,
No.
where we're at with?
That's in the that's not in the general fund, that's in the debt service fund.
Right. So are we going over that?
We're not,
I don't want
at
to
this,
jump.
at this point in time, am I right, Ken? We just barely have enough debt service to pay the bonds without,
Well, my question
Eaten into-
is,
it's in the budget, if
can
you
we
will.
discuss that? Right. I want to break that out and discuss it in greater depth
Okay.
at some point. I don't know if it's on your schedule to do that. If it's not, can we plug it in somewhere?
Okay, and so long story short, there is, we've been talking general fund all this time. There is also a debt service fund, and that debt service fund is funded with a certain amount of millage that's locked in this year. So a certain amount of our ad valorem tax millage goes into the debt service fund, which then pays for all the bonds, the general obligation bonds. There is sufficient millage to pay for all of the general obligation bonds the way it's set up to right now without any more borrowing. If we were to need to borrow tomorrow, we would have to increase our millage to debt service because we don't
Right.
have
So I
enough.
want to look at the bonds and see what our schedule is for some of these payoffs. I know we had some that were scheduled to be terminated at certain times. I just wanted to know when those were for each different bond that we've taken out in the past years.
Well, yeah, he's got a schedule that he can give you that shows each of the bonds and when their payoff date is. I can get that emailed out to you,
Okay, thank you.
send it out to the council.
You got 9.5 mils set it for the bonds. You have enough millage set to pay the bonds we're doing. That's what 9.5. Isn't that what we have set for the millage for the bonds?
Is that the bond millage, Ken?
Or is it 9 mils or something like that? 9.2, okay.
Okay, time-wise, we're halfway into our period for this workshop, and I think this is a point where we should transition into the non-department budgets. I mailed the non-department budget out to you, but in case you don't have it, I got one at your desk, I think.
What we doing?
The non-department budget.
That one?
There,
Yeah.
you'll see groupings, different groupings in that non-department budget. The first grouping talks about community development advertising and includes a number of entries: Cruising the Coast, the Orr Museum, the Coastwide MLK celebration, the Seafood Museum, the Gulf Coast Legislative Reception, the Boom Boom Fund, the Mississippi Gulf Coast Resort Classic. Those all total up. You can see in each case how much it was in this year's budget, what it's going to be, and what was in the previous year's budget, and what the difference is. So at this point, I would ask if you have any questions about that first group. Is
Yeah, I have
is
a
anybody
couple
here?
on the top part we're dealing with.
Yeah.
Just the top part.
The top
We
group.
got a couple things, on the George Orr building, the maintenance, I mean, we don't own that building. Why do we maintain that much money in that building?
We lease that building. It's a very complicated, and every time I go through it, I have a hard time getting through it with a straight face. For various reasons, we own the land. The museum owns the building. We lease the building back. And for that reason, we're responsible to maintain the building, or for certain maintenance functions, and such as, and we've agreed over the years that the elevator maintenance, fire alarm maintenance, things that affect, the building not burning down and still being able to maintain and so forth. It's a complicated arrangement that was probably, and I'm only guessing, is probably because of the way we had to get the big grants that went, I'm sure you were on council at the time when when
Was.
those grants came down. And it had to, the city had to be in an ownership position. And that's probably why this convoluted arrangement about owning and leasing and so forth is. So as you know, we're operating now under a management agreement that's about a year old. Last year was the first year. In the management agreement, we lay out in that agreement how much money we give them each month for a management fee and what functions we pay for and what functions they pay for. For example, utility bill, the electrical bill, we pay for $5,000 or half of the bill, whichever is less, which is usually $5,000. So when the electric bill comes in and it's $10,000, we pay the bill and then we invoice the museum for the other $5,000. They pay for all the routine maintenance. They pay to do minor repairs. We pay the maintenance contract on the elevator. We pay the fire alarm inspection and so forth. It's all laid out in the management agreement. And the numbers that are in the budget this year are reflective of how much it's costing us.
Well, I thought last year you set up some kind of schedule where the city would put up so much money maintenance-wise, and they would match it.
Right. I think
They're
you'll
not
see
putting
that.
up $50,000. We're not going to $100,000 maintenance on that building every year. That's what you did last year. You set up where it was, they put up so much money, we put up so much money and matched that. I thought it was
The management
50,000
agreement
total.
management agreement calls for, instead of us just paying the bills as we go, to give them $25,000 up front for maintenance of the building for the year. We give them that in a check at the beginning of the year, and then they pay as they go until it runs out, and when it runs out, they pay. That $25,000 should be,
Right, and we put up 25 and they put up 25, right? So why you got it down here 50,000 that we putting up? We should be putting up 25,000, that's what we agreed on.
that's the $25,000 plus the additional cost that's the $25,000 we write the check to them for them to do all the routine maintenance all through the year. And it includes the difference. The difference is the amount we pay for the elevators, for the fire alarm, for the fire suppression system and so forth, the things that we're required to pay for. So that's the total 50. In the Seafood Museum, which is Seafood Museum maintenance, you see 20,000.
There's 20,000 you got down there for them. I mean, that's what you put down there, you said they didn't even spend 20,000. Well, I really thought we did the thing last year with the old keep to be 50,000 between us. I didn't think we were gonna put another 50,000 up.
Well, to make it cleaner where we're not putting it into, we don't want to do like the baseball fund. We thought about making it like the baseball fund, and then we realized the complication there. With the baseball fund, we put in 25, the team puts in 25, and then we have to manage that fund. In this case, we put in 25, and we just give them the 25, and they pay all the bills, and anything over 25 is on them. So it's just cleaner. We don't have to manage a fund that way.
So how much you actually putting up?
How
We're
much
putting
you
up
got?
25 and 50?
We're putting 25 up, and we write them a check for 25, and then they pay all the maintenance costs except for the elevators, the fire alarm, fire suppression system.
And that causes us 25,000 and other things?
That's every time they call a plumber to fix something, or a roof, leaky roof, or whatever those costs are, that's on them. When our 25 is gone, then it's on them.
Yeah, I just think, that's a stretch to me. That's a lot.
Well, the way it's set up now, the museum has more of an, I'm talking about them like they're not sitting here. The museum has more of an incentive to manage their money and manage their facilities than they did before, because if it's not managed well, then it's on their budget. So that's the way it is with the utility bill. Obviously, they have an incentive to manage their utility costs, because anything over $5,000 is their cost. So that is that museum, as we all know, is not the way it was built. It's just not really sustainable when it comes to maintenance cost. It's a very expensive facility to maintain. But the way the management agreement is set up now, the museum itself is incentivized to do its best job of trying to maintain that facility as inexpensively, as efficiently as they can. Yeah, it is what it is. I don't know if we'll ever make it any different. It's just a beautiful but very expensive facility.
So if you cut it 25,000, we want to pay $25,000 anyway? Is that what you're saying? No matter what we did, we stuck for 50,000?
Correct. At least that's the way it is in the budget. You want to change it, that's what we're here
No,
for.
I'm not asking you. I mean, it don't do any good to take it out, then you got to pay it anyway. That's what I'm trying to find out. If you're paying it anyway, if it's costing us 50,000 a year just to maintain that building,
Yep.
the city.
Well, I can tell you, it's costing more than 50,000 to maintain it, but they're paying the difference.
That's a good way to put it.
Well, Kevin, y'all get any grants or BP money, anything else? Did y'all get any money at all?
We get grants, but it's not for, paying, things like air conditioning, things like that.
So the BP money, what is that dedicated to what?
That's money that we have set aside for an endowment fund, because we don't have that. We want to make sure that the building's going, that the museum is still going to be here years from now, and if we start blowing all of the, BP money, the museum will not exist anymore.
All right.
In the second group is called
Well,
Community
let's-
Development
let's-
Other.
Let's
We wasn't finished on the first one
Let's
either.
go back to the first group.
Okay.
Just to get things started here. I'm looking at Cruising the Coast. It's proposed at 10,000, the Coastwide MLK Celebration at 10,000, the Boom Boom Fun at 10,000, and the Gulf Resort Classic at 10,000. What if we just cut those in half and it's 5,000 for each of those four events instead of 10,000?
What's that? For what?
Any thoughts? Cut the contributions in half for Cruising the Coast, MLK Celebration, the Boom Boom Fun, and the Gulf Coast Resort Classic, from 10,000 to 5,000.
No, I don't recommend that at all. Those things bring a lot of people to the city of Biloxi. That's some of the best functions we have. The thing you need to look at here, if the Martin Luther King thing not in Biloxi, I'm not giving that bunch $10,000. They go to Gulfport one year, and Biloxi, every time they're in Biloxi, we fund them 10,000. Or they in Gulfport this year? 'Cause I think it was in Biloxi last year. I'm just saying $10,000 at Gulfport. You want to cut something, you cut that.
Well,
When they're in Biloxi, that's fine. Then we sponsored it, Biloxi sponsored it.
well, let me ask a question with regard to that. Do we know, if Gulfport is contributing? Because if Gulfport's contributing and their base budget is covered by both cities, even though they flip-flop it, then it's the same thing. We'd have to pay twice as much for Biloxi, but I don't know if Gulfport's contributing. So is there a way to find out if Gulfport is contributing?
Yeah. This is the Battle of the Bands and all that stuff that
No, this is
happens
the-
here. That's part of that MLK celebration is the Battle of the Bands. I know that it's held at the stadium here. I don't know the answer to whether Gulfport contributes or not, but we can find out.
Okay, thank you.
I know they don't run this thing for $10,000, that's for sure. It's
You're right, well, I don't know who all the
they
other
haul in
contributors
about
are.
20 bands for that event.
I guess we just need to check on that, that's all.
I have a question. I know that the Orr O'Keefe Museum is on a different fiscal year than us, but do we have a copy of their last financial?
We do, and I can provide that, both that and the Seafood Museum's audit. I can give
Yeah,
them both to you. The Seafood Museum's on the same audit schedule as us, so they probably are, do you know, if Councilman Lawrence, if they've gotten their audit
I
finished?
think they're
or
on
not?
the same as us, and
I think their audit is complete.
y'all are January to December, correct?
No, it changed. You know.
Okay, so y'all are on the same as us now, okay. So Mike,
As soon
bottom-
as we have those audits, we'll get them to you, but we don't have either one of them yet.
the bottom line with Orr O'Keefe is we have three expenses. One is 60,000, one is 50, and one is 48. So we spend a total of 168,000 with them each year. Same three line items with the Seafood Museum, we spend 138,600, and there's no other expenses associated with them outside of those three. Is that correct?
That's,
I'm seeing a 73.6. I'm seeing a, yes.
There's 158,000 budgeted. Ford gets 158, Seafood gets 138,600.
I'm seeing 60. I'm seeing 60, 50, and 48 for the OR, which is 168.
158.
158, I'm sorry. Okay. 158, okay. And then the other's 138,600, correct? So, okay. But that's the only expenses that we have for the city with those two. I know that we give the Seafood Museum $1,000 or something for the New Year's Eve deal, but as far as,
they asked for that
On-
separately. They will
Yes.
ask for that separately, and we'll vote on that separately.
but this is, as far as the, for the most part, this is, okay.
The 73,000 is 48,000 to management,
And the advertising.
19,000 for the advertisement, and then 5,000, I think, and a few, something for the Sea Camp, when it hosts all the kids there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
That's
we
how you-
rolled-
that's
we-
why the 73.6, that's,
We rolled that, all of those agreements
Yeah,
into
one,
one
put
management
it all in
agreement
one.
last year.
they used to be separate, he just added them all together.
Yeah, like if we can get those audits, I'd like to see those if we can get those.
If you've not seen the previous ones, I can get those to you right away.
Okay, thank you.
Give you an idea how it sets up.
They're
So,
probably all doing that right now. The old Keep and both of them are doing it about the same time. They'll get that to us. The audit report you're talking about, we'll get that.
so the next group of non-department budget items talks about the management agreements for the two museums. CASA, the Mardi Gras Museum grant monies, you'll notice that 158, that's the money that we just, by resolution, moved to them. That was their own money that we were holding. But that just shows because it was in the budget last year. The Mardi Gras Museum management agreement. We still have the $25,000 facade grant, and I honestly can't tell you when and if that's going to be used, but that's still in the budget. Gulf Regional Planning is the GRPC. That's who we work through for all our 80/20 grants with MDOT and so forth. And finally, the Harrison County Library Commission. And I know Sarah is here from the library. I've got a handout for you, and I'm sure she'd like to talk about the library. Our libraries, we have 4 libraries. Gulfport has only 2, by the way.
The chair recognizes Sarah Ruskey with the Harrison County Library Systems.
Thank you for allowing me to come and say thank you and answer your questions. We've been very busy. I send you all a newsletter. I hope you get it. If you aren't getting it, please let me know because I mail it here and it kind of keeps you up to date on what we're doing. You have been working on, we're about to turn up a new internet service that will give us 10 times the speed at some of our library, at the main Biloxi branch, and improve the speed at all the libraries, and not just Biloxi, but throughout the system. We're also working on some pretty major upgrades in some of, like our West Biloxi Library has Cat 5 cabling, and we're going to replace that with Category 6. We have some federal E-rate money. The Universal Services Administration provides schools and libraries with money that we have to match some of it, but it gives us a great opportunity to put in. We have 10-year-old Wi-Fi system. We're replacing that. We're upgrading the cable, like I said, and doing some other infrastructure things. And as you know, we're trying to, there hadn't been a technology replacement plan, so the minimum age for the computers in the Biloxi branches is 2011 was the purchase date. So as you know from last year, they are running Windows 7. Windows 7 is about to sunset, and so we're trying to replace those, and we appreciate the help that you've given us. We're starting that project. Those are going to go out once the cabling's updated, and we're hoping to continue working on that this year. And so I'm just here to answer any questions. We've been busy with programs, with checking out our saving people money by sharing materials and checking those out. So I'm at your disposal for questions about our plans.
Well, we always budget $695 for the libraries, and before that, $650. When it was $650, y'all said y'all needed a little extra help, so we went to $695.
Right.
Last year, y'all asked for the $12,000 for the computers. It's supposed to be a one-time thing.
Well,
So why are we having an increase again?
Well, because it was actually we set it out in the first year that it was a 2-year project. We have 68 computers plus 50 laptops in the Biloxi libraries. Our state contract price for one computer is $752. A laptop is $829, so you can see how that quickly adds up if you're trying to replace 68 computers, which we're not asking the full price for that, but we replaced about 16 with the money from last year, and so there's still a big gap.
I could help her out on this one too, and that is, just like us, they are feeling the pain of the 2% PERS increase.
Yes, that's
So that 2% PERS increase, you'll remember, for our city, for our 600 some odd employees, was almost $800,000. That is a mandate, an unfunded mandate that's come from above. So my guess is for their employee group that, I mean, we're talking about an increase in their budget's about $20,000. That probably doesn't even cover the PERS increase.
the PERS is quite substantial, as you all know. It's gone up from
15 to 17%.
Right, but over just the last few years, that's part of where that $695, that's been the case for the last, I think, 12 to 13 years. I have to check my notes. So we've had to eat those PERS increases just like you have, and that's eaten into our ability to replace these computers over time. So we're finding ourselves with 9-year-old computers, and we can't.
How many employees y'all have?
Total, or in Biloxi, we have 68 total right now. Like you do, it shifts a little bit, and we have a few vacancies, but.
What would be 2% of your payroll, do you know?
I'm sorry?
What would be 2% of your payroll?
Well, the total PERS for us across the system is about 25,000 increase throughout the whole, for the 68. We have 53 full-time employees that we have to pay PERS on.
So,
Yeah, 26 for Biloxi.
say again?
26 for Biloxi.
Yeah, because that's all we're worried about. We're not
Right.
paying for anybody else's.
Right.
Well, I'm just saying, if you factor the PERS increase, which they can't control, that's not a budget increase. It's basically flat.
But then you go back to the 695 and they add 2% to the, then you add it to that. You can't sit there and cut the police, the fire department, and everybody else and just let everybody have a pass. You can't do that. All this stuff is good for the city of Biloxi. You're supposed to support the library. Got no problem with that, but when things are not good, then you got to get a little tough. And everybody got to do a little better job. That's what we're trying to do. So if there's a 2% added to the 695, you let me know what the 2% is and what the total amount would be. And that's what you got to budget.
We would like to get to a place where we could put aside money every year to replace computers, but we're just at a critical point now. If we don't have the machines, we can't operate the library, because all of our infrastructure is based on, we don't have I think I mentioned last year, we don't have the physical card catalog anymore. We have a database that covers that. And then we have about 44,000 uses for the computers in Biloxi, about 80,000 plus system-wide. So they're very much needed by not just the staff part, but also the patron part. We have people who, don't have computers at home or internet, and they need that.
Well, I think you do great work, and with what's proposed by the administration, a $13,000 increase from $707,000 this current year to $720,000. I mean, if we can spend $10,000 on cruising the coast and $10,000 on the MLK celebration and $10,000 on the Boom Boom event and the Gulf Coast Resort Classic, and for these events that occur during the year, certainly we can come up with $13,000 to meet the needs of the library on their computers, particularly in addition to the PERS contribution increase to serve folks who live and work and come to the library that are in Biloxi every day, not just for those events. That's my thinking.
You had about 200,000 people using just the Biloxi libraries last year, and if you average, the cost of a book at about $15, multiply that out, it's a good cost savings. It's a good economic investment. It's a good ROI for your investment, I think.
You said 200,000 people use the library?
In Biloxi, about over 500,000 system-wide.
Is that checkouts or is that people?
That's people. The checkouts are close to 500,000 as well, though. We have about 3,000 programs with 70,000 attendees. So if you were going to an event that costs $5, you go to the library for an event and it's free.
Is that visits or is that people?
It's visits.
Okay, so that could be the same person coming back multiple
It
times.
could,
Okay,
yeah.
okay. I was
But uses.
like, we got
How's that-
40,000 people.
How's that little Woolmarket library? Pretty
It's doing
active.
great. We really appreciate that new space. The numbers are rising every month for Woolmarket, so we're really pleased. And we get lots of good feedback on the space, so a good job on that.
So the 707 that was given last year, that was a $12,000
That included the
increase.
$12,000 for the
That was
computers.
that was for the computers. The additional $15,224 that's been asked for this year, that's to offset PERS and
No, yes, the additional part of that is PERS, and the rest is also for the computers again.
So, in addition to the 12,000 that we're already given, because 695 is the base number, correct?
That
we
has
normally
been,
go with.
for the last.
So the 707 number has 12,000 built in for computers
Yes.
already.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I was about the computers last year. That's why we
What
went
I'm
up
saying,
12,000,
though,
right?
what I'm saying is the 707, we're adding another 15.2 to that. The 707 includes 12,000 for computers already.
Right, that's what we did last
That
year.
number does, yeah, okay.
Yes, and the
That's what we
total,
was just trying to find out,
And so the other 15 is additional computers and then to offset your cost
The
on
bell
PERS?
ring, did I miss the bell ringing?
Well, you turned everybody up with that, but
yes.
where y'all going?
You're trying to replace your technology.
We're trying to replace 68 computers, which would cost us approximately $51,000 total. So we still have a pretty good gap.
Right.
And
And-
we're getting some grant money. We did a fundraiser this past year. Well, the friends helped us with the fundraiser. They'll help us again. But that's, that's a lot. It's a big gap.
How many of those
so-
computers are in Biloxi?
That's in Biloxi. 60. We have 300 system-wide.
Okay.
So we're trying to do this in every city and the headquarters as well. Replace 300 computers in 2 years' time. But 68 currently in Biloxi plus 40 laptops. We're not going to replace all those laptops. We got a grant to do a mobile lab, so we're good on that. But the 68 are staff and patron, and like I said, all those the youngest ones are 2011. We have some that are 2009.
Right, but the point is, with laptops and desktops, you've got basically 100 computers, right, total?
With both, but like I said, we're not. Our
68.
target is not to do those 40.
Right,
yeah.
but the point is, it's kind of like crop rotation.
Yeah.
You need to rotate your
Ideally, yes.
Your product.
We're not
So
getting- we're
if you're
not
on a
able to do
5 or
that.
6 year rotation, I mean, at home, if you're running on a 5-year-old computer, you're kicking it.
And this is not like your home computer. This is one that has thousands of uses every year.
Right, and it has people who don't necessarily take care of
Yeah.
it, so.
And we have software in place for that, but
Well,
they're still
I would
having
urge,
tough.
I would urge my colleagues to go with what's recommended. I don't know what else to tell you. I mean, this is something that the citizens of Biloxi, and that's all we're talking about right now, is serving the citizens of Biloxi at how many different library locations? 4? With 100 computers. I mean, if you replace them every 6 years, you're replacing 16 a year at 800 each. I don't know, what's that, 10,000 alone?
Yeah, that's our goal, is to do this in a more coherent fashion from here on out.
Okay.
But we're trying to get there.
Can you get grants or anything to help to get the computers?
We can get small grants, like we're getting $6,000 to help fund part of the mobile laptop lab, but they're just, like my colleague from the Ora Museum was saying, their grants are usually for programs,
I
and
mean, it'd be nice if y'all get out there and do something like that, go out to some more money, get some more grants, upgrade a lot you can.
we definitely try and look for it, and our Friends of the Libraries organizations help us too, but they're not giant scale, so they might be able to fund a couple of computers here and a couple there, but the scale is just so big for this particular.
15 years ago or 20 years ago, when laptops, desktops, all that new technology was being rolled out, you could get grants for hardware.
Not so
Now,
much.
it's almost impossible to get grants for hardware. Now, you might look at innovative programs, which in the library would mean software applications or books or something innovative in the way of Kindle readers or something like that. But these days, it's hard to get grants for hardware, no
It
matter
is.
whether you're the library or the city of Biloxi or anybody else.
That's their job.
It doesn't
That's their
make it
job.
any easier whether it's my job or your job or
Yeah,
their
that's
job.
their
It's true
job.
in the schools, it's true in the city, it's true in the library.
And another thing, Paul, I mean, you sound like we don't do nothing for them. We give them $700,000 every year. So, I mean, you sitting over there saying, well, we did this every year. Ain't nobody in the city of Biloxi gets any more money than the library. Remember that.
Right,
Remember that.
and we send $10,000 up in smoke one night a year.
Right, and you got 40,000 people come watch
That's fine. That $10,000 would serve those two folks who visit the library 200,000 or 300,000 times a year, every day.
You know how much smoke we could have for $700,000? That wasn't too good, Paul. That wasn't good at all, that one.
No, well, that $700,000 you'd spend on smoke,
That's
let's
all
just
right,
spend
that's good.
$100,000 on smoke and give the
Order,
other
guys.
600,000.
Let's get this back under control.
Back on track.
Let's move on to the next
Sarah,
issue.
thank you very
Okay,
much.
thank y'all very much, and we appreciate your support.
I'd like the representative of the Motor Vehicle for Hire Association to come up. This is one of those little-known items in our budget, but I think this has come up before,
He
everybody's
can
agreed.
say what he
it's-
wants. He gets his 33,000. I ain't saying anything. That's the greatest 33,000 we spend every
Chair-
year.
Well,
The
well,
chair would
let me
like
tell
to
you.
recognize Mr. Payne. Thank you for being here, Mr. Payne.
Thank you, gentlemen. Excuse me, clear my throat a little bit. I just, mostly more than money, I wanted to touch base with some changes that are going on here on the coast. If you've watched the local news lately, you know that Z-Trip has bought out Yellow Cab. What that means for us is an additional 40 new cabs being put, or taxis, excuse me, I've been corrected before, taxis put on our roads. These vehicles are averaging 2017 or newer. I met with the actual ownership of it, Mr. William George out of Kansas City, Missouri. Excuse me. Sorry. And he assures us that they intend on changing these vehicles on average of every 2 years from here on out. That's a big positive for our taxi industry here on the coast. We've had several of the other smaller companies that are doing the same. They're following suit. They can't quite afford the 2017 or newer, but they are getting, 2010 or newer vehicles, which is a good thing for us. At this present time, we do have several vehicles on the road that average anywhere from 2001 to 2008. That's not good for the industry. It's not good for how the public looks at the industry or the cities that they're coming to visit. But it is getting better on a daily basis. Currently, we have 22 companies that are operating within the 3 cities, with Yellow Cab / Z-Trip being the largest. ABC Cab, which is strongly a Biloxi-based cab company, is second. And with, if I'm not mistaken, I didn't bring their current number, but I think they're operating like about 15 or 16 cabs at this time. The industry's growing. We're getting better. As y'all have noticed, you've not seen them in the city council chambers harassing the meeting, which is a good thing. We resolve any issue we have at our level the best we can. I can't promise you that that'll always be that way, but we'll do our best to resolve it in my office or with our commission instead of coming to the city councils.
One of the things that we want them to understand is why your number changed. I think it's interesting how you calculate that.
Well, what we do is just take request the percentages of each, from each company of their drop-offs. And this is, from my understanding, this was formed in the interlocal agreement, which I was not here for, that predates me. And it's going to fluctuate a little bit. I think everybody here in this room would agree that Biloxi has most of the attractions, most of the go-to places, family-friendly or casino-based, whatever it might be. So we're starting to, see a little bit of a change. It wasn't but 2%. I think it came out to be $1,200 for the year. That growth has actually started 2 years ago. It eased up just a little, then it eased up just a little. And now this was, to the point where, we changed them a little bit. Gulfport went down a little bit. D'Iberville went down just a fraction. And at all, the changes, to the benefit, hopefully, of the city of Biloxi. But that's how that.
Right.
Is
So it's based on the number of drop-offs
sir.
in this city,
Yes, sir.
the percentage for your whole budget.
Yes, it is. That's, the city of Biloxi right now gets the majority of the drop-offs. How they base that is where, for instance, we get the information, ask them, and we require the information from them of, how many drop-offs or what percentage of your drop-offs did you drop off in Biloxi? What percentage went to Gulfport? What percentage went to D'Iberville? And then we take that amount, that percentage, and that's the percentage we ask of our overall budget from each of the cities. Is that
That's good.
okay?
Any questions on how the budget is calculated? These guys, this is a heck of a service for us. Those of you who would have been on council in the past know what a disaster this was before we had this motor vehicle for hire organization.
I don't have any questions for the Motor Vehicle Hire Authority. Representative, do you?
The only comment I have is, as George said, doing a great job, as near as we can tell. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Payne.
Thank you.
I've got one more handout, Councilman.
Well, before you do that, in this section, we have the Coast Transit Authority. I know there's some questions regarding the Coast Transit Authority's budget. I don't see Kevin Coggin in the audience. Can we request that he come to the next workshop so we can discuss his budget?
Yeah, because I was suggesting on them to go back to the 280.
Well, let's wait for him. to get
I'm
here.
just saying.
We'll discuss that.
I do have a question, though. Before we added the D'Iberville route, what was our budget
I want to wait.
with CTA? Do y'all remember that? before?
280.
280. That's why
And
I want to wait for Kevin Coggin to get here so we can address it. Otherwise, we'll just rehash these same questions when he gets here.
The only other one on the other thing, Robert, was the 5,000. I suggest that we take that off.
George suggests removing the 5,000 for CASA. I believe last year was the first year we started giving to CASA.
I know it ain't much money, but we did it last year. I just never could see why we did it last year. All they do is advertise TV.
The CTA number for 2018, that was in our budget.
The CTA, right? The CTA number for 2018 was higher because that included some proposed route changes.
Yeah.
Because in
We're talking
18,
about
we
the
did a
budget
half.
before that
If you
one.
remember,
Before.
we did a half.
Yeah.
We did half of it
Right.
and tried it, and then we came back later.
Yeah. It was
The next
280.
year.
It was pretty standard for 280. So.
And let's wait for Kevin Coggin to get here so we don't have to do this exact same thing again. The CASA What bang for a buck do we get on the Casa 5,000? Are either of you guys with Casa? Okay, you guys both looked up when I said that, so I was like,
CASA is,
Something to do with children.
yep.
say again?
Court-appointed
Court-appointed-
advocate.
Exactly, and it deals with children, and somebody has to act as an advocate on their behalf, and a lot of them are abused children. So this is what this, and I think that's a volunteer program where folks are trained to come in and work with these children in juvenile court, as I recall.
Correct, Mr. Tisdale. CASA's been around for quite some time, though. Last year wasn't the first year of CASA, yet it was the first year we gave to them. So my question is what was the rationale behind giving to them just for the first time last year and then adding to our budget?
It was the first time that they had asked. To my knowledge, they didn't ask the year before.
Okay, well, that's fair enough.
Well, I just,
Why don't we request someone from CASA show up and justify that request? We'll get back to CASA and the CTA then, if we'll get Mr. Coggin and a CASA representative here.
Looking over the rest of that, in the bottom section, you see where some of the big numbers are, but these are all must-pay bills. There is the principal for the lighting retrofit that we did a couple of years ago. We've still got another 9 years to pay that. There is the principal for the telephone system, which is paid off now, so we won't have any more payments for that. There is the interest on the lighting retrofit note, and there is the interest on the grant anticipation note, which was the money you remember the short-term loan that we borrow from Bancorp South that we've been paying down. Should be paid off this year. So this is probably the last time we're going to pay that. And that's the total of those non-specific debt services. And that pretty much rounds out the non-department budget. You can
The
see
one
that
question,
it's down
Mike,
from last year.
on the premium, I thought we said we were gonna adjust that to 2.7. Did we need 2.9 last year on the premium?
This was the $11 million we borrowed that we paid down to 8, and then we paid it down to 5, and now we've paid it down to 2.5. So it should be paid off this net.
No, I'm talking about just the insurance.
He's talking about the,
Insurance.
You talking about the
2.9
insurance?
yeah, 6488.
So I didn't think we spent 2.9, I was just wondering it had to be. Well, if you're looking for money, it might be $200,000 sitting there. We won't know if you don't spend it. We don't know. Did you spend it last year? That's my question. What we spent last year? Well, I'm just saying, I mean, that was another thing, you know, you're looking for money. If you need to put more,
Those costs did go up just a little bit when we signed that contract with them. That's when Mr. Bordeaux came in and briefed the council when we did the insurance policy. It was slightly higher, but we've also been cutting back on things that we're insuring.
what was the number?
We've already spent $2,099 through June. I don't have July's number.
So you have 2 months left.
We have July, August, September, we have 3 months left.
Well, July, you hadn't spent anything in July? July is done.
Just for June, I don't have July.
Okay.
So still at that rate, we're averaging 300,000 and something per month, right?
Close to it.
Yeah, so, I mean, with 3 months left, yeah, we'll hit it. We'll hit that
About
number.
2.5, 2.6.
No, we still have 3 months left, right?
200.
So, I mean, we're talking about, we're gonna hit, 3 million at that rate. 300,000 a month. We're at 21 right now, right? As you said, we're at
That's
2.1.
That number's,
Plus 3 months of 300 is, it's not 2.7. 3 times 3 is 9. We're averaging 300,000 and something a month. We have 3 months
10
left.
months is 21, that's 210,000.
9 months. 9 months. If you have 3 months left, we've only done 9 months. So 21 divided by 9 is
21.
is 2 something. So we'll be
Yeah, 2 points.
we'll be close.
It won't be 2.9.
It'll be
I was
close.
just trying to put more money into our budget somewhere, that's all.
Right, I'm with you.
That's all.
All right.
You gotta look for big numbers.
Do we have anything else? I see the accountant put his glasses back in his pocket, so there must not be much else to talk about.
Yeah, figure these things out, yeah.
I have a question.
Let's close it up. Good night.
I do have one question before we go, if we're to that point. And that is, our revenue pretty much for the last several years has been flat, about 59 million, 58 million, somewhere in there. And when we met last week, the deficit we were looking at was 6.4 million. And this week, y'all have knocked that down basically a million, 5.3 million. What are you shooting for?
Gotta be balanced.
Oh, look, right on.
Oh, so you and him had this routine?
No,
Let's
that's
see,
news
have
to
the
me.
dog. Hey, song and dance show.
News to me.
I was going to, the mayor asked me not to do this unless you asked.
That's why y'all talked to Paul today.
Actually,
We're showing that it's starting off with a cash balance of $8 million, and that looks very solid.
for fiscal year 20.
That's the ending balance of this year, is the
Okay.
ending balance of next year.
Okay.
We're sitting at 8.3 million a couple days ago, 8.3 million in cash. We had payroll, which was like 1.4. We have distribution of the gambling and sales tax that balances that back out and brings us up to 8.3 again. We'll go through that same cycle next month. Some out, some in, should stay around 8. And in September, we usually get a bump on ad valorem tax with the tax rate. So we think that's going to go up, but we're fairly confident on the 8 million. I have only one concern, medical. The medical cost that we talked about earlier, were potentially $350,000 in total. That would come off that number. The revenue that we agreed on was 59.5 million. The expenses in the budget, both the budget we just looked at, the non-department budget and the department budget, adds up to 63 million. That drops us by the end of the year down to 4 million in the cash balance. Now that's as long as we have a cash balance at the end of the year, it's a legal budget. So it's not a deficit budget. We are programming or planning a budget that shows our cash finishes. But remember, this last year, the year we're in today, we said we were gonna end up with 6 million. And we're getting it. So as I say, people, it's like balancing your checkbook. You balance your checkbook, many of us ever do that anymore. You balance your checkbook. At the end of the month, if you've got some money left over, it doesn't go away. It gets reprogrammed into the new month. And that's the same case with ending cash balance. That's why we had 8 million, we think we can have 8 million to start. Because a year ago, we said we were gonna have 6 million at the end of this year, and it's grown to 8. So it's because we're keeping the expenses down.
None of that 8 million's obligated to anything?
No.
Okay.
As I said, the only asterisk, I don't have an asterisk. The only asterisk I would put next to that is medical.
Yeah, because of the possibility of going over our threshold.
Asking about the employees that make less than
Right.
$13 an hour, less than $12 an hour. You asked if 71 of those employees, you asked them what if we
Right.
dump them all at $13 an hour, 150,000.
Question, what's our monthly payroll? I know we pay folks semi-monthly, twice a month, but what is, just a rough figure, 5 or 6 million? Okay, so for some reason I'm thinking as a rule of thumb, a good conservative practice would be to have 3 months' salary in the bank, and we basically to cover payroll for 3 months. I think that's always a rule of thumb I've heard. We could cover it for half that time. So if we're upside down our expenses and revenue in the budget that we adopt and actually spend that 63.5 million, then we've just cut that down to about a little less than a month's payroll. But
One of the things about if we go through the
Right.
adjust the budget, we can lay people off, we can leave vacancies, we can not buy some things, we can reduce travel budgets. So as we go through the year, we can reduce expenses if we see problems developing. But this is where you stand right now on this budget. I'd love for this number to be better than that, but
That $4 million added,
includes no pay raise, and it includes potential for some medical costs coming out of that top line.
that $4 million to Mike and added the expenses you got left, is $2 million that payroll? Is $2 million like new employees or something? What increased our expenses so much? What was the main thing? New employees? Well, there's 2%, that's 800,000. You're talking about 4 million. You can only use that 2% so long, Mike. Yeah, I know.
We also bought 2 fire trucks. We're also paying off the new fire station. We're also buying vehicles for the police.
9 new firemen.
9 new firemen. These are all adds this year.
What are we paying for those fire trucks?
$1 million.
Now, are we financing those? So that hits us, out of that 4 million, what real number is going to those fire trucks for this fiscal year? $160,000. Okay, so, and we're financing those for how long? 7 years. So that'll hit the budget for 160,000, basically, for 7 years, give or take some. A year, 15 years. So that's a $500,000 there.
So there are some, I mean, let's just say the PERS number didn't go away. That's not a one-time thing.
Yeah.
That's an add on
That's every year.
All right, you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
I have a motion to, record time.
We have to schedule.
I'll move that motion.
I'm sorry?
We have to schedule our next deal.
Or do we have to, do we need
Don't
to
we?
schedule the next meeting?
Next Monday, 3 o'clock.
No, I don't think we should do 3 o'clock. I prefer to do earlier than 3 o'clock. You guys okay with 1 o'clock? Schedule it like it's our Tuesday meetings at 1:30.
Next Monday at 1 o'clock. I'm good with that.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
All right, Monday
Just
at 1
need a
o'clock.
short agenda on Tuesday. So I just need
1:30,
a
I'd
short
do
agenda
1:30.
on Tuesday. It's election.
that we keep the agenda for the evening meeting as short as possible.
Do you want to do the budget, do you guys want to do the budget meeting before that then? If we're going to do that at 6, we just do it at 4?
Yeah, I can't. That's election day.
Oh, is it election day?
Yeah, so
Good stuff. All right, Monday at 1 o'clock it is. Do I have a
1:30.
motion? Pardon?
The reason I say 1:30, because half of them will get back from lunch at 1 o'clock. Don't matter to me. I just,
1:30.
Right.
on
Not me, I
Monday.
don't eat lunch,
Going
but-
once, going twice.
1:30.
So, do I have a motion? Correct.
the audits for the museums. Yeah.
Would we cover capital projects at some point, or do you want to cover that a little bit? It'd be nice, just, think about it.
We have to tie this up.
thing with the capital project reconciliation is there's nothing new there. It's the exact same project
Right.
that existed under investment reconciliation.
Yeah, most of that's tied up in the bond anyway, huh?
The numbers that has over time moved as, pay bills and so forth. But I will give you that exhibit for next time we meet.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
A second.
Moved by George Lawrence, seconded by Nathan Barrett. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously.